Hi, we are learning about absolute value inequalities today. So I know I've got this when I can solve absolute value inequalities. Okay, the big thing that's important on this side is if it has less than, it's and, less than, it's an intersection. If it is great or, it's a union. Okay, so if it has the absolute value of x is less than 2, that means that it's 2 units away from 0 in either direction, or less than 2. Before using an absolute value property, isolate the absolute value expression on one side of the inequality. So if we do this one, you set it up both ways. So you say x is less than or equal to 7, less than. So and x is greater than or equal to -7. So you flip the inequality sign and you change the sign, because this is like multiplying by -1. So when we do that, we flip the sign. And so you've got x is greater than or equal to -7 and less than or equal to 7. So again, you flip, when you're setting it up, you're two different ways. You set it up the same way here, and then on this side, you flip the sign and change it to a negative. All right, so for 1b, we're going to work it out. So we have x plus 4 is less than 6, less than, so and then we put x plus 4 is greater than, so you flip it and change it to a -6. So that's how you set it up both ways. And then you just solve. So you get x is less than 2, and subtract the 4. X is greater than -10. So you can write this as a compact inequality. So you can go -10, always write it from least to greatest, okay? So you start off with -10 because that's a smaller number. So you have an open circle at -10 and an open circle at +2, and it's everything in between. And you can see that right there. All right. Okay, so on this one, you want to isolate the absolute value before you split it, remember? So we're going to have x minus 3 is less than or equal to 1, because 7 minus 6 is 1. And then once it's isolated, then you split it up. So less than 1, less than, so and x minus 3 is greater than or equal to -1. So I'm going to add the 3 to both sides, and I get x is less than or equal to 4, and x is greater than or equal to 2. The and, remember, means that I'm using an intersection, okay? So I'm going to write this in order from least to greatest. So 2 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 4. So I have a closed circle on the 2 and the 4, and x is everything in between. And then you can see that right there. All right, so this next one I wanted to do with you, you have the absolute value of 8x minus 3 is less than -2. Remember, the absolute value of a number is always positive and can never be less than -2. Thus, this absolute value inequality has no solution. So this is a no solution problem because it can't equal a negative number. And anything less than -2 would be negative, so it's no solution. Okay, here's some that I want you to do. So go ahead and pause the video. And here are your answers. So just let me know if you're having trouble with any of those. All right, solving absolute value inequalities. This is great or. So or, remember, signifies a union. All right, so we're going to write this. Y minus 5 is great or than 8. So or y minus 5, flip it, less than -8. And then isolate the y in both cases. So you're going to have +5, +5. So I'm going to go y is greater than 13. 4 plus 5 plus 5. Y is less than -3. So it's greater than 13 or it's less than 3. So you would see how they have an open circle right here at 13 and shading this way, and go into -3 with open circle and shading that way. All right. Okay, let's do this one together. So we have -6, -6. All right, so I've got the absolute value of 4x plus 5 is greater than -4. Now, before you say it's no solution, I'm not saying it's negative. I'm saying it's greater than a negative number. So that does not mean the same thing. So if we say less than a negative number or equal to a negative number, that's no solution. So this doesn't apply, okay? So anytime that we see greater than a negative number, that could be anything. So this is all reals. Okay, now if you wanted to keep working it out and see, you would go 4x plus 5 is greater than -4, or 4x plus 5 is less than a +4. So you would work this out. 4x is greater than -9, x is greater than 9/4, or subtract the 5 and you get -1. So less than -1/4. So what happens when you do this is this would be like 2 1/4, -2 1/4. So it would be going this way, and -1/4 would be going this way. So you'd cover up the whole line. You don't even have to do that though. If you get to this point and you have a negative number, if it's greater than a negative number, it's going to be all reals. If it's less than a negative number, it's going to be no solution. So that's kind of a shortcut to help you keep it, just keep it in your mind. Okay, so go ahead. I want you to try this one. So go ahead and pause the video. And you should have gotten this as your answer. So let me know if you're having any trouble. Okay, number 3. All right, so same rules apply. We just have a fraction. It's okay. So I'm gonna isolate the absolute value by adding the 1. So I get greater than or equal to 5. Now I have to set it up both ways. So I have x plus 7/2 is greater than or equal to 5. Great, or, right? So or x plus 7/2 is less than or equal to -5. So I'm gonna multiply both sides by 2. So I get x plus 7 is greater than or equal to 10. Subtract the 7, I would get x is greater than or equal to 3. Or multiply both sides by 2, not 5, 2. And then I get x plus 7 is less than or equal to -10. Subtract the 7, I would get x is less than or equal to -17. So the answer is, I'll bring that back in a second. There we go. The solutions are x is less than or equal to -17, or x is greater than or equal to 3. This word right here is extremely important to me, because that tells me if it's a union or an intersection, which is very important. Okay, so 3b. So I have 0, right? It is less than or equal to 0. It cannot be less than 0 because that would be a negative number, but it can be equal to 0. So I'm going to write this. I'm distributing in the numerator. And right here, I'm not going to change the sign, but I don't have to set it up 2 ways because there's no way to do anything else but a 0. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. And I get 3x plus 6 is less than or equal to 0. And then just solve it from there. So x is less than or equal to -2. So I can't have less than or equal to 0, right? It just has to be equal to 0. So actually, in this whole problem, you can set it up as equal to 0. So your answer actually is not less than or equal to -2, it is equal to -2. I just wanted you to see that. It cannot be less than 0 because that would be a negative number. So you have to change it to just equals. All right, I want you to pause the video and try to do these. And you should have gotten this as your answer, so go ahead and check. Okay, I know I've got this when I can solve absolute value inequalities, but do you really understand? What compound inequality is equivalent to the absolute value of x minus 5 is less than 9? Well, let's work it out. So you would have to do it. You would have to say less than 9 and greater than -9, and then work it out, and you would get that. Okay, what is the first step in solving this? You better add that 7 to both sides. What's the second step after you do that? Write the inequality as a compound inequality. So you have to set it up 2x minus 6 is greater than 8, or 2x minus 6 is less than or equal to less than -8.